Vikir watches the hellhound approach. It's an oil-world monster. In his past life, he hadn't killed one alone until he was 18. Now, at only 8, facing it head-on would be reckless. But he knows a few tricks. Tricks even a child can use. The thought brings a faint smirk to his face. The standoff ends, and both charge. Its first weakness is clear. Hellhounds can only run in a straight line. Vikir slides aside as the beast rushes past. It skids, snarling as it turns back. Vikir uncaps a bottle and pours water in a line on the ground. He knows oil-world monsters cannot cross water no matter how shallow. With this, the hound will be forced to circle, slowing its pace. The final weakness is when it charges. It always does so with its mouth open. As the hound closes in, Vikir flicks a cacao bean into its mouth and sidesteps as it rushes past. The hound halts, twitches, then lets out a sharp yelp before collapsing. Vikir holds another bean between his fingers. He knows chocolate is poison to canines, and since a single bloody bean can make 100 liters of it, that alone makes it deadly. He pulls his sword, anticipation spreading across his face. A hound from hell is no match for chocolate. He looks over the beast's body, searching for an organ not shielded by its hard ribs. Finding the kidneys, he drives his blade in. The creature cries in pain before going silent as he finishes it off. A warm blue energy rises from the corpse and flows into him. Vikir knows this power comes from slaying monsters. It strengthens the body. His sword already feels lighter. If he keeps this up, he will soon recover the strength he once had as an adult. He imagines Hugo's face when an 8-year-old returns with the head of a B-plus class monster. He smiles. This will easily net him first place. He has already decided what reward he will ask for, a book whose value no one else yet realizes. He moves to take the hound's head, but the sound of paws draws near. 4 more hellhounds appear. Still calm, with his back to them, Vikir asks if they heard their comrade's yelp. He then asks if they have come to avenge it. How touching, he says, as he slices the head from the first hound, gripping it firmly. He turns to face the others and smiles. He had no intention of stopping at one. He still has plenty of beans. Suddenly, the pack recoils in fear. Confusion flickers across Vikir's face. Hellhounds do not retreat so easily. Why would they fear an 8-year-old child? Then he realizes their fear is not for him. He turns and sees it, a 3-headed hound, a Cerberus, an A-plus danger monster. It belongs on the 7th ridge, yet here it stands at the 1st. Its body is wounded, arrows and cuts driven deep. Perhaps the barbarians beyond the mountains forced it down. A nervous smile flickers across his face, tinged with excitement. Injured as it is, there may be a chance, but only if he uses every card he has. Until now, Vikir has hidden his true ability from his clan. He has already reached the level of a high-class sword expert. He has already mastered the 3rd Baskerville form, power no 8-year-old should possess. His sword glows with a blue aura as he charges. He strikes the wounded beast again and again. With his past life's experience and the power of the sticks, he knows he can win. But the Cerberus endures. One claw shatters his sword. Another smashes into him, sending his body crashing against a tree. Blood spills from his mouth as he coughs from the impact. A moment passes as Vikir jolts awake. Did he black out for a second? The Cerberus stalks toward him, its 3 heads low and snarling. His body aches from the impact, but it is his arm that burns most. For a moment he wonders if he lost it. Glancing down, he exhales in relief. It's still there, only grazed. Lucky. A strike from a Cerberus that left him with just a graze was nothing short of fortune. He silently thanks the blessing of the sticks. Without it, he would already be dead. The Cerberus suddenly charges. Vikir dives aside as the beast smashes through the tree behind him, shattering it in 2. He knows he cannot last like this for long. His best option is to run. He bolts for the perimeter fence, his destination the camp he had set up earlier. The Cerberus thunders after him. His lungs burn, but the camp is close. He just needs to hold out a little longer. Ahead, the familiar site of his camp comes into view. The Cerberus closes the gap with terrifying speed. Vikir vaults into a mid-air flip, narrowly avoiding its snapping jaws. He lands just beyond the trap he had laid, and the Cerberus crashes down behind him. Its paws sink into the soil, the hidden spikes driving up into its flesh. Vikir scrambles to the ground and looks back. The Cerberus writhes, impaled by the buried stakes. He wipes the sweat from his cheek, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He had set those traps for hellhounds, never imagining they'd be used against a Cerberus. Fortunately, the beast is still a canine. The bloody bean extract smeared on the spikes should still take effect. Already, the monster gags and retches as the poison spreads. Two heads sag, choking, but the third still snarls at him. That wasn't enough. Vikir steadies himself. He still has a backup plan. He pulls a spear and hurls it. The weapon strikes the Cerberus's hide and bounces off. The beast lurches forward. Vikir braces himself, counting each heavy step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The last remaining head glares at him, snarling as it comes face to face. Then its legs give out, and the beast collapses in front of him, crashing into the dirt. Vikir exhales, wiping the sweat from his brow. That was exactly 7 steps, he says. So the rumors were true. The spear he threw had been tipped with a fang from a bloody mamba. They say its venom spreads before the victim can take 7 steps. Good thing he had kept it from his younger days. Blue energy seeps from the corpse and flows into him, sealing the kill. But then another thought strikes him. How is he supposed to bring this carcass back? He recalls that a Cerberus is a gatekeeper. Where there is one, there must be a dungeon nearby. Covering himself in the beast's foul excrement to ward off predators, he begins to track it. He follows its tracks in reverse until he finds what he's looking for, an entrance hidden in the mountainside. Memories stir. In his past life, this dungeon would not be discovered for another 10 years, and when it was, it had already been cleared of anything valuable. But today, the heavy stench of mana still lingers beneath the rot. The air grows thick. The darkness inside is deep. A smile spreads across Vikir's face as anticipation builds. He steps into the shadows, saying he cannot wait to see what kind of treasure lies within. Vikir makes his way through the cave tunnels. Ruby veins glimmer faintly along the walls, and he realizes the dungeon must be connected to Red Spike Mountain, a branch of Le Rouge et Le Noir. Up ahead, a red light flickers. Could that be the main chamber? As he draws closer, the glow grows blinding, forcing him to shield his eyes. When he steps into the chamber, he sees the source, a massive ruby set atop a pedestal, flooding the cavern with crimson light. But on the far wall, a skeleton leans against the stone. Someone had already been here. Vikir examines the remains. The bones are pierced with stab wounds, and dried blood stains the walls and floor. Next to the corpse lies a note. He picks it up. The letter begins, "My name is of little importance. Call me Cain." The handwriting is unmistakable. Baskerville script. The writer was of his clan. Cain's words tell a grim story. He and his brother Abel had stumbled upon this place and fought their way here, only to face the test of the chamber. For 3 long years they lingered, struggling to solve the riddle that guarded the treasure. Vikir frowns. 3 years? Why stay so long? His eyes drift back to the glowing ruby. Was this the treasure? He studies the inscription carved into the pedestal. 1 journeys in, 2 arrive, but leave as 1. He returns to the letter. Cain explains how he and Abel mulled over the riddle until they reached their conclusion. As twins, They had once been one in the womb, but were separated at birth. To leave this place with the treasure, they decided, they must return to being one, and so they fought. Cain killed his brother. But even then, the treasure did not reveal itself. He had murdered his twin for nothing. Racked with regret, Cain wrote this warning for whoever came after. Leave this place at once. Vikir studies the riddle again. He is no twin. He came alone. Perhaps the brothers were too fixated on their bond. No dungeon is unconquerable, he thinks. There must be an answer. He lingers on the inscription, tracing each word in thought, until the answer dawns on him. He smirks as he walks toward the ruby. Cain and Abel had truly been unlucky. Because they were twins, they twisted the meaning. They assumed the riddle was about them. But the truth is simple. When one enters a bright chamber from a dark tunnel, one gains a shadow. In that instant, one becomes two. The answer is to remove the light. Vikir drives his fist into the ruby. The gemstone shatters, the chamber trembles as the wall behind it crumbles open to reveal a hidden room. At its center rests a sword, dark energy radiating from its blade. It stands thrust into a pedestal engraved with words. Only a descendant of Baskerville may remove Beelzebub. Vikir repeats the name in shock. Beelzebub, the gluttonous fly. Legends tell of mysterious supreme monsters that once invaded the continent, demonic constellations known as calamities. 7 noble houses rose to confront them. The first to fall to the Baskervilles was Beelzebub. Its remains had been preserved within their domain, but the lingering demonic energy drew monsters like moths to flame. So, the legend was true. In his past life, a demon had claimed this weapon, slaughtering countless humans on the battlefield. Not this time. Excitement spreads across Vikir's face as he grips the hilt. This time, it would be his. He pulls. Darkness surges around him, the energy flowing into his body. His hand throbs as the power concentrates there, until suddenly a blade erupts from his wrist, glowing with deep crimson light. Vikir raises his arm, staring at the weapon with a dark smile. To stumble upon such a find, what luck. Vikir looks around the chamber once more but finds nothing else of value. He turns to leave. Suddenly his head grows light, his stomach growls and his legs buckle as he drops to his knees, weakness spreading through his body. What is this sensation? Why does he feel so faint, so hungry? His gaze falls to his hand. Beelzebub, now retracted, vibrates violently, buzzing like an insect. It feels hungry. Was it demanding food? The hunger gnaws at him as he makes his way out of the cave. His senses sharpen, smell intensifying until he catches a faint, mouth-watering scent. Then Beelzebub jerks his arm, pulling him toward it. It leads him back to the corpse of the hellhound he had slain earlier. From his wrist, Beelzebub stirs and extends a thin, needle-like point. It pierces the beast's body and begins to drink. Vikir watches it feed, realizing it must have been starving, sealed within that dungeon for so long. Around him, the dead trees stand as silent witnesses. Perhaps this lifeless land was the result of the weapon's presence. At last, Beelzebub retracts with a satisfied buzz. A surge of power fills Vikir, and a message flashes across his mind. He has gained a new skill. Out of 3 available slots, the first is filled. Bleeding Hellhound. He examines it. The ability ensures enemies continue to bleed, no matter how small the wound. His thoughts darken. Beelzebub truly possessed the power to steal the skills of its victims. If so, could he take skills from the Cerberus as well? He approaches the fallen beast. Beelzebub lashes out hungrily, stabbing into the carcass and drinking deep. Vikir clenches his fist and warns it not to drain too much. He still needs to bring back his trophy. Questions would arise if the body were left too withered. After a moment, he strikes his arm, forcing Beelzebub to retract. It pulls back reluctantly, buzzing with displeasure. 2 new skills register within him. From the Cerberus he inherits Burn, and unexpectedly a third fills the final slot, high-speed regeneration. Puzzled, he looks closer and notices a brown rat crushed beneath the Cerberus's corpse. The regeneration must have come from that small creature, drained along with the larger beast. Fortune favours him. The Burn ability of an A+ monster is now his. Satisfied, Vikir decides it is time to return with his trophy and enjoy the rest of the assignment in peace. Once the month was over, the young hounds gathered to receive their scores. On display were the trophies of the strongest monsters they had slain, each to be reforged into weapons or shields as their reward. Among them, one trophy astounded the Baskervilles present that day. Hugo received the report in disbelief. Vikir had brought back a Cerberus. Barrymore explained that Vikir had accidentally entered the danger zone and hunted a wounded Cerberus, one that seemed to have been injured by barbarians. Still, Hugo asked, slaying it would have been no easy task. How had he managed it? Barrymore answered that Vikir had applied poison to his spear. What kind of poison? Hugo pressed. What could bring down a Cerberus? Barrymore admitted the details were missing from the hunting log. When asked directly, Vikir had been vague. Hugo sat back, impressed. So sly, even at that age. Already he seemed to understand that information itself was power. Barrymore then added that he had never expected such brilliance from a young master bearing the middle name Van, but Hugo dismissed that line of thinking. He reminded Barrymore that he was not like the patriarchs before him. Bloodline meant nothing to him. Skill and determination were all that mattered. Even the finest breed could produce useless whelps. Barrymore wondered quietly if he was referring to his second son. Hugo then ordered Barrymore to bring Vikir before him. Moments later, the boy stood smiling in front of his father. Hugo spoke first, saying he had heard of his deeds with the Cerberus and asked how he had done it. Vikir answered plainly that he had used a spear with chocolate applied to the tip. Hugo repeated the word in disbelief. Chocolate? Then he asked if that was why Vikir had requested it a few days ago. Vikir confirmed it. Hugo asked why Vikir had withheld that information from Barrymore. Vikir answered simply, because Barrymore was not his master. Then who was his master? Hugo asked. Vikir said he served the head of the family. Hugo smiled at that. A good answer. He told Vikir that as his reward, the monster was his, and for coming first in the assessment, he would also be granted one wish. At last, Vikir thought, this was the moment he had been waiting for. He then asked to see the infinite archives. Both Hugo and Barrymore stiffened in surprise. Hugo narrowed his eyes and asked if Vikir understood that only the legitimate scions of the family were permitted to enter the library. Vikir said he did, and if that was not possible. But before he could finish, Hugo cut him off. His request would be granted. Vikir blinked in surprise. Hugo even told him to make use of the opportunity and be sure to read the book on the 6th Baskerville form. Vikir's surprise deepened. Hugo was allowing him to study the 6th form, knowledge usually reserved only for heirs of the bloodline. He steadied himself. It was only the 6th form. Hugo's level was already at the 7th. In his previous life, Hugo had gone on to master the 9th. That was the height Vikir needed to reach if he was ever to take his revenge. He had not forgotten the betrayal, nor the day he was executed. But this time would be different. This time, he promised himself he would surpass Hugo, and he knew of a way to do it, a secret Hugo had never uncovered. The swordsmanship manual written by the very first patriarch, the man who had slain Beelzebub, and Hugo would hand it over to him without even realizing it. Later, Vikir makes his way to the library. As he enters, he takes it all in. In his old life, he had never once been permitted inside. His fingers brush along the shelves, the rows of swordsmanship manuals he had always longed to study. Within the family, illegitimate children were forbidden from advancing beyond the fourth form, no matter how much they bled and served. The Baskerville creed was simple. Hunting dogs should not be given the teeth to bear at their masters. He finds the book Hugo had suggested, bound behind lock and chain. Still surprised at being allowed this far, Vikir pulls out the key. Perhaps Hugo believed an 8-year-old would never manage to memorize it in a single day. Flipping through the pages, Vikir thinks of what he had already pieced together. He had theorized much of the fifth form simply from watching others wield it. Now, seeing the text directly, he catches what he had missed. The Baskerville swordsmanship drew forth a number of fangs in proportion to the level of mastery, each glowing with a red aura. But he does not linger. The sixth form is not what he came here for. His true goal lies beyond. He leaves the wing of the library, startling the guards who had watched him enter. They ask if everything is all right. Vikir answers simply that he is finished here, then tells them he will look around the rest of the archives. Puzzled, the guards whisper among themselves. Why head toward the upper floors, where only useless books were kept? But Vikir knows exactly where he is going. He walks along the shelves until he stops. His hand closes on a forgotten volume. The lurking impacted tooth. It is a manual of the first form, discarded because several pages were missing. Even children no longer bothered with it. But Vikir knows its true worth. In his past life, his squad had uncovered a page deep within a dungeon. At first, it seemed nothing special until Hugo saw it. At once, Hugo recognized it as no ordinary scrap and ordered the entire archive searched for the book it belonged to. That book was the one in his hand. The first patriarch himself had written it. Hidden within were the instructions to reach the 10th form. Hugo had become obsessed. When he discovered that the missing pages were scattered across the lands of the 7 great houses, he sent his hounds to hunt them down. They bled, sacrificed, and died retrieving them. And when Vikir finally delivered the last, his only reward had been a cold, empty, well done. The memory makes his teeth clench. He will not let Hugo use him again. He had been the hound who retrieved those pages, and he had memorized every one of them. Now, with the original book before him, he could piece together the rest and truly unlock the 10th form. In his past life, he had been shackled to the 4th form. In this life, he vowed to reclaim that level before 15 and surpass it. He studies through the night, dawn's first light spilling across the pages as he closes the book at last. The words are fixed in his memory. With this knowledge, he feels the 5th form within his reach, something he could never achieve in his past life. Eyes closed, he retraces the forms in his mind, 1 through 4, each flowing into the next, until he reaches the 5th. He remembers every struggle of his past life as the 5th form finally takes shape. Imperfect, not yet mastered, but enough to draw the 5th tooth. His fists clench, trembling with emotion. For the first time, he celebrates quietly, the surge almost bringing tears to his eyes. The 5th tooth has awakened. In his past life, he had died a hound, discarded after a lifetime of service. But now, reborn and armed with knowledge that none suspected, he would bare his fangs at those who once scorned him.